Hello and welcome to the Fundamentals of SQL course. We are now in the joins section of our course, and we're going to be focusing on this lesson, aliasing. So the big thing with aliasing is that it's kind of temporarily renaming your columns or your tables inside your query. And this makes your queries easier to read, especially with complex joins and subqueries and self-joins. It reduces the typing required when you are writing out your query, and it only exists for that query. So here's the general syntax using an alias. So we would select our column name, and then we would write out as, and then we would give it a name. And then when we call our table name and we want to give our table name an alias, we would say from our table, and then we would just write out our table name that we want to alias it as. So let's use the rental table to practice aliasing columns in our table. So let's identify the rental rate and return date where the rental date is not null. So we're getting values. We're getting all the values that are available. So let's say we want to alias the rental date as rent and the return date as return. So what we would do is we would write out our select statement and we would select our rental date as rent, comma, return date as return. We're saying this is from the DVD rental database where our rent is not null. So you're going to notice that this syntax and this kind of format of our SQL queries is definitely different than what we've been doing before. And you're going to notice that in the joins, it's going to look a lot cleaner. This is just a best practice that I've learned is that when I use these longer select statements, whether I'm aliasing or joining tables, that I break apart each section of my SQL statement. So my select statement, I'll return, and then I'll tab out rental date, and I'll make sure that my as, if I'm aliasing, all of my as statements are aligned. And then all of my new aliases are aligned. So I can identify easily what columns are what and what they're named. You'll notice that my comma is also before the next item in our select statement, the next column. So I do this because if I forget a comma on the end and I delete a column or an entire row of a SQL query, I'm going to be missing now a comma and that row. So I'm going to get an error, and then I'm going to have to go back and look through my SQL query. Well, where is my comma? But if we put them at the front of our query on each line, at each row, if we miss one, we can always easily go back and find out where it is. So this is just best practice. We're going to do a lot more formatting when we get into the inner left and right joins, and especially the self joins. But this was just a small introduction to aliasing and formatting. Remember that aliases make your queries easier to read, and it reduces the typing required, and it only exists for that query. Thanks, and I will see you in the next lecture. Hello and welcome to the Fundamentals of SQL course. We are in the joins section of our course, and we're going to be talking about inner joins. So the goal of using inner joins is to combine columns from two or more tables, and we want to make it appear as a single set of data. So let's say we have city data and customer data, and I want to see all of that data together. I would use a join. So for an inner join, any information on both tables that doesn't match is excluded. So thinking about, like, let's say orders and customers, I want to think about, like, why might that be a bad thing if we're trying to match orders to customers? Well, if we use an inner join on orders and customers, we're only going to get the transactions that have both orders and customers. We might not get all of our sales, and we might not get all of our customers. So let's say we have daily sales transactions in our left table, let's say, and all the names and addresses of our customers in our right table. But we want to show only the sales transactions that we have customer info for. Well, then we would use an inner join. So when we're joining tables, you need to have at least one matching column. And I suggest using the reference materials before diving into these videos, and there's a note about that in Teachable. But you need to have at least one matching column. So when we're writing out inner join is the same as join. The inner is optional within SNOSQL syntax. So what this would look like is we're going to select our column names from our table name 1, and then we're going to call out our inner join or join table 2. And then we on our column name 1 from table 1 and our column name 2 from our table 2 where a condition is met. So I know that sounds kind of confusing right now, but let's look at our sample query, and it'll make a little bit more sense as you continue to practice joins. That's kind of the best way to learn, is really to do. So let's list all of our customers with rental information using the DVD rental database. So we have our customer table and we have our rental table. And when we're joining tables, it is best practice to call the table name first, period, column name. So we're going to select all of the information from our DVD customer table, and we're going to join it on our rental table. But we don't know what column that they share. So we could go to our customer table, and we could see all the columns: customer ID, store ID, first name, last name, email. And then we could go to our rental table, DVD rental, and I see customer ID. So they both share the customer ID. So we can join on that. So we call out our inner join on our table 2, which is DVD rental, and then we say on, so we're joining on from table 1 the customer ID column, and that equals from the DVD rental table the customer ID from table 2, which is the DVD rental table. So if we run this, we're going to see all of this information as a single set of data, which is a really cool thing about joins. So we return 16,044 rows, and now we have our customer ID, store ID, first name, last name, email, address, everything, and the rental ID, the rental date, the inventory ID, everything from the DVD rental table. So this is just an example with an inner join. Just a big note about our data. We've already discussed this earlier, but it is too clean, which means that there are no nulls. So all of our values have perfectly matching sets. So when we look at left joins and right joins and full joins, you're not necessarily going to be able to see the difference, and that's why the reference materials are so helpful. So when we dive into left joins, we will discuss what should appear and just expose you to the sample syntax. This was inner joins. Just remember that inner joins exclude any information that doesn't match. Thanks, and I will see you at the next lecture. Hello and welcome to the Fundamentals of SQL course. We are in the joins section and focusing on the left join. So the goal of a left join is to use the left table as a base table, and then any matching information from our right table is shown. So any information that doesn't match from the right table is excluded. So to kind of put this into perspective, let's say we have daily sales transactions in our left table and the names and addresses of our customers in our right table. But we want to show all of the sales transactions from our left table and any matching customer info from our right table just as a single set of information. That's when we would use a left join, because we're using the sales transactions as our base table, and it's just matching any customer info that we have. The sample syntax is the exact same as an inner join. We're just replacing inner with left. So let's say we have a sample query where we want to list all the customers with available rental information using the DVD rental database. This is the same query that we used in the inner join video. As you look, you see that we're joining on, again, the same column, customer ID and customer ID from the DVD rental table and the DVD customer table. We discussed how our data would be too clean because every row is filled. There are no nulls in this data set. So our left join acts a lot like an inner join because of the data that we have. What I would like you to do is go to the reference materials if you have not so far and see those visual examples of what a left join does and how it behaves. Those examples are going to be incredibly helpful for you as you're trying to learn and practice using inner left and right joins. This is left joins. Just remember that in a left join, we use our left table as a base table, and any matching information from the right table is shown. Anything that doesn't match is excluded. Thanks, and I will see you in the next lecture. Hello and welcome to the Fundamentals of SQL course. We're in the joins section of our curriculum, and we are going to be discussing right joins. So the goal of a right join is using a right table as our base table, and anything from any matching information from the left table is shown. So if you're thinking about a left join, this is just the inverse. So if you like looking at things from inside to out, this would be a great use case. In the real world, you're not going to find many use cases for a right join, but it is good to know how to use it and what would happen if you do. So let's say we have daily sales transactions in our left table and the names and addresses of our customers in our right table. But we want to show all the customer information and then any matching sales transaction as a single set of information. That's when we would use a right join. So it's kind of working inside out and filtering its way towards your base table. So it is the same syntax as an inner and left join. We're just replacing inner and left with right. So again, we want to list all of the rental information with any available customer information from the DVD rental database. So our base table here would be DVD rental because we are right joining DVD rental. The same results, just like we discussed in inner and left, sorry about that, are returned. And we can't necessarily see the difference because our data is too clean, because it is a sample set of data and we just want you to be able to learn the most effective ways to learn. So the reference materials are going to be key for you to learn inner, left, and right joins on top of the practice that we have in Teachable. So just remembering that a right join is very similar to a left, it's just the inverse. And you use the right table as a base table, and any matching information from the left table is shown, and anything that doesn't match from the left table is excluded out of the view. So that is a right join. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next lecture.